Welcome to Inspirational Transformational TV show. Amy Whitney here today with my very special guest, Carolyn Shannon. Carolyn's beautiful, bubbly personality is so refreshing and inspiring to be around. She laughs her way through the interview. She's lighthearted. She is such a delight to watch. And the thing that's amazing about this is when Carolyn takes us through the initial stages of her journey through this life, it is heartbreaking what she's experienced, where she was at such a young age, everything that she's been through. She's come out the other side. She's empowering other people. She's an author. She's a teacher and a true inspiration. Enjoy the show. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining Inspirational Transformational TV show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
This is wonderful. My pleasure. Let's just launch right into talking about your journey, let's say. Now, you feel that your journey has been and continues to be about trust. Can you share with us what that means and how you came to that conclusion?
Well, I think a lot of the time, a good majority of the time, being humans, we waste a lot of time thinking that we can't trust other people. And what I'm learning very well is that it is not about trusting anyone else. It's about trusting myself and my gut and knowing to trust my intuition and the universe. And this is where I think we can waste so much time just focusing on blaming other people and being able to distrust. So one of the things that I love, one of the sayings I love so much is that praying is talking to God and intuition is God talking back. And I just love that, and I believe it with my whole heart. I don't always listen, I don't always act, but I definitely believe that. And one of the articles that I wrote a while back called The Fear of Success, Where Did It Come From? Talks about how when we're a child, a very young child, we learn to trust other people's decisions for us first and foremost, and in some cases, because of safety, it is very important that we do that. However, there comes a time where we have to start listening to our own voice. And in this article I talk a little bit about how when we're children, we the first things we do, like the first time we speak or talk or do any new thing, everybody's going, yeah, let's do it, look, everybody, look. And so this really sets us up to decide how we're going to react. Now, some of us become what I call praise whores, where we constantly want that high. So we up the ante. And all through our lives we do this, and we crave that high again. So it's so important. And other people start to get really annoyed at being asked to do things on demand. And then so they start to back off, and they don't want the responsibility, so they start to really pull out of that. So there's that side of the coin. However, in both situations, I don't know if you've noticed this, the things that we encourage the children to do, and this is the other side of it, is that all of a sudden we want them to stop doing what we've been so happy about them doing because now it's annoying.
Interesting.
So there's that side of the coin too. So success is very related to those early beginnings, I feel, and how we crave or what we decide to do, and how much effort we're going to put into pleasing other people or pleasing ourselves, which is the real thing.
Can you take me back a little bit? You're speaking about childhood. Now, you worked in education. Is this where your first of all, your understanding of the child psychology comes in?
No, I actually, from way, way, way back, when I was 5 years old, you've probably heard about the veil of forgetfulness and how we've come here and we've chosen our lives and things like that. Well, at the age of 5, I was ready to leave. I didn't like what I had chosen. I was already ready to go. And part of it was because I was living with an alcoholic father. I was constantly, there was a bit of abuse in our home, physical abuse and things like that. And I loved my father dearly, however, it was very much became a love-hate type of relationship because of certain things that happened. And that's where I suddenly decided I wanted out. It was either him or I at the age of 5. And although the 2 times that I actually tried to leave this earth at that time were so childish and probably, and I mean, on hindsight, looking back, well, the one couldn't have done anything because I was just trying to put a nail in my chest. I mean, you know, that wasn't going to do anything really. And the other one was where I would throw a hula hoop out into the street and chase it in front of cars. And later on in hindsight, I've actually realized that I would have been, with my luck at that time, I would have probably only been hurt, not killed. And that might have been a whole different journey.
Yes.
So thankfully, that didn't happen. The cars were smarter.
Amazing.
Than I was. So anyway, by the age of 6.5, there was a very bad situation with my father where I had, and at 5.5, sneaking out of the house and going out is punishable. However, unfortunately, it was a church event that I had gone to, and he was a little harsh all the way home. He had brought a belt buckle, and so there had been a lot of anger there. And I had actually told him how much I hated him and wished he'd die. Within 2 weeks to a month, he was gone. He was in a car accident. And so there lies a lot of where I stopped, well, I started not trusting my instincts, but believing that I did believe I had the power to kill people with my words at that age. And later on, one of the stories that I've talked about too is one of his forms of discipline was if you didn't like something, especially if it came to be food. In this case, it was onions. I didn't like onions, and neither did my brother. So what we were forced to do is he would cook a full frying pan full and make you eat it. Now, he did this with my brother first, and I knew my turn was coming. And that was another reason. So here I was praying a lot to God, or to the universe, to take my father. So there was a lot of energy being put on what you focus on grows.
Yes.
However, even at that age, I felt much older than him. I felt like I was so much further ahead than him, or more of a parent than he was. Yes. So I had an awareness that was really weird, and I couldn't understand why the rest of my family didn't get it, didn't see it, didn't understand that this was a blessing.
Right.
So, but every Easter after that, every Easter, I would go through this, oh my God, if Jesus can die and come live again, then so could my father. So I really had this apprehension as a child that every Easter there was a chance he could come back. And that's really when my intuition stopped a little bit. During that time, I didn't want to look in the clouds because everybody would say, well, if you look in the clouds, you could see your loved ones. I didn't want to see my loved one. Right. I didn't want to see him at all. So later on, now my brother totally interpreted since my father died, he tells the story how much he appreciates that my father did that for him because he loves fried onions.
Really?
So it's all in perception.
It's
all in things like that. So anyway, then another young boy, a neighborhood boy I was playing with, I told him I hated him, wish he died, and he died of leukemia. And so I'm beginning to really worry about this, you know.
Yes.
This is starting to become a habit. So I'm thinking I can't voice my anger anymore.
Right.
So within a year, my mother actually, a situation happened, and I'm not going to go into details, but she was having things happening to her, and I did a childhood prank on my sister that when she came in, she lost it, and I was disciplined to the point where I couldn't go to school. So at that point, what happened was I couldn't tell her how I felt, right?
Yes.
So that was the beginning. The beginning of stuffing the words, stuffing the anger inside, and I began to get this earthquake inside. And at the time on the radio, that song by Elvis was playing, Because I Don't Have a Wooden Heart.
Right.
And it was at that point, through the process of bending creatively, I've done tons of art on this, and being in the box and not in the box, and coming out of the box. And this is the day that my heart had a box.
Beautiful.
Around it. So from that moment on, of course, I would start to, I didn't understand that the feelings that are buried deep inside do not die.
Yes.
They sit there and smolder, and they do all kinds of things, and they come out at the most inopportune times. And they also cause you to hurt yourself in many ways, like, you know, the frustration parts where locking yourself out, or, you know, all these things that you do to make your day worse.
Right.
To sabotage yourself when you could have a better experience. So that was very, very interesting. But during that time when I was actually thinking about the suicide thing, I actually befriended the town idiot.
Okay.
And there was something just very soulful about this person that I felt connected with. And I just loved, I don't know, I just felt good around him. Now, he would always speak to me, and I always spoke to him, and things like that. Well, one day he actually won a lottery of some sort. Mm-hmm. So when I went to the store that day and he was sitting outside, he said to me, I want to buy you something, anything, because you've always been so nice to me. So I said, well, I'd love an ice cream cone, of course, because we lived right across the street from the store, so I said, I would love an ice cream cone. And so he went in and he bought me a gallon, like a big box of ice cream. And I was in heaven. In those days as a child, food, we didn't have a lot of money, so food really, that was something I appreciated. And so I'm sitting there eating it, and all of a sudden, you know, you're in that euphoric moment.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I felt myself being yanked and carried. And even to this day, I don't remember which of my parents had picked me up, because all I could think about was the ice cream and not losing this ice cream. Yes. And so I was very, very upset with that. And now they told him, they actually were quite harsh to him.
Right.
And so it was about 2 or 3 days after that, we were watching a baseball game, and we saw him walking along the train track. And he was drunk as a fart, and he was just very, very upset with the whole town. And then a train was coming, and everybody was yelling at him to get off the track. But he didn't do it, because he was yelling back, "You're not telling me what to do anymore," because he'd won all this money. And within minutes he was gone. And it was very interesting, because I actually at that time, because I was still in that phase where I wanted to leave and come back in another life,
yes.
I thought he was the lucky one. I thought, wow, you know, how come? Yeah. So as a child, I was very, I don't know if you'd call it mature, but very understanding of life, and not understanding why certain things were happening, though.
Right.
So anyway, that's where I did find out later on, though, that alcohol can be in many forms. And with me, I was a bit of a dry alcoholic. And Suzanne Summers actually talks about this in one of her books, that she thought, because she never drank, she was the one that didn't drink, that she was the good one.
I don't know the term.
A dry alcoholic is basically a person who has all the holic tendencies. We have lots of holics,
right,
but we're just not choosing booze. We're not choosing the drink or the drugs. And my drugs of choice were food.
Okay.
and also negative drama, telling the story.
Okay.
Getting into that. Now the ice cream, I later found out, every time somebody died, I had to go and buy a gallon of ice cream. So that was, it took me years to figure that one out, but now it makes total sense that it was very reminiscent of that time. So it's that connection. But doing the victim thing, I think that I needed to somehow cope with my life, so I started to do it in a very humorous or colorful or talking about it, not to help people, but it was more about to tell my story and see the shock again and all that. And that's where we do get caught up. If we haven't learned from it, we have to learn something from everything, I think.
Yes.
And each and every day now, I am writing the book about my life, but I'm not doing it because I don't want to count on my own perception being the exact right perception.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing it as a counselor who's listening to another girl's story.
Amazing.
So that will make it. But going back there is difficult sometimes.
I can imagine.
Because you don't want to get caught up in the past that way. But intuition, now that's the trust. Now, at the first time that I really started to trust my intuition was, well, I know there was many times when I was younger, but when I actually noticed the first time that I didn't allow someone to talk me out of it,
Okay.
because I think that is our biggest problem, is that we do allow people to talk us out of it. And that one time we were at a garage sale with my mom, and my ex-mom-in-law was actually coming from Kingston to Brighton to join us and to help. And she hadn't arrived yet, but coming from Kingston, anything could stop her. So I said to my mom, all of a sudden I just stopped and I said, I have to go get change. I have to go to town. And she went, we don't need change. We're fine. Like, we don't need anything. And I said, I have to go now. And she said, well, while you're there, stop at the drugstore. And I said, well, okay, I needed to get something there too, so okay. So as soon as I walked in the drugstore, there's my ex-mom-in-law standing, and she's going, oh my God, I didn't know how to get in touch with you. I didn't have your number. I couldn't remember where to go. And I was just praying for help.
Wow.
And I went, wow. And so that's the thing that we have to really, really trust. And I've learned to do that more and more and more. And this whole, I don't know if you've heard about the veil of invisibility or whatever. Like, the whole thing is that needing to trust that whatever's meant for you will be there when you need it.
Yes.
And I've had a situation where I went to a store and these women the women that were with me went right to the rings, and they were looking at all the rings, and they all love cats. And they tried on all the rings while I went and looked at the books. And when I came back finally to look at the rings when they were done, I went, oh my God, look, Sammy, my cat. And I got this little cat ring, and they went, where did you find that? We tried on every ring there.
Amazing.
So that's the trust thing, that things will be there when you... I used to be one of these people who thought you had to be the first one there to get things.
Yes.
Whatever you need will be there.
Beautiful.
Whatever you need will be there. And the same with this house. This house was an incredible story in that we were looking for a year, and we both thought we wanted, I call him my significant other, but my SO and I were looking for a duplex or a triplex because we lived on our own for so many years, and we really wanted to continue to live on our own. We liked that. Yes. And so we were looking for a duplex or a triplex that I could have my business in, the other part. And we were not having any luck in St. Catharines at all. Nothing was in our price range. So what we ended up doing was, all of a sudden, I got a hint, and again, there's your mind, your ego, and your spirit. one of my friends talked about their parent might be selling their triplex, that they're ready to leave. So this opened the door to Niagara Falls, to even thinking about Niagara Falls. And I got very caught up in my human side, got very caught up in that I had to have that house now. Like I was going to make it happen. I was going to make it happen. And in the meantime, we were looking at all these other houses, and we just couldn't make a fit. It just wasn't fitting. And I printed out this house twice. I printed it out and I looked at it and I thought, it's such a nice house. There's something about this house. I really love this house. But it can't have what it says, and it just, we're not looking for that. Yes. And so I shredded it twice. And, but we had opened the door to Niagara Falls now.
Okay.
And we were finally getting very frustrated. We looked at 2 other places and that were semis or that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, my real estate lady said, well, I have one more place to take you. And she showed me the picture, and it was this house.
Right.
And I said, oh my God, like, I don't think this is going to work, because... So anyway, she brought us in, we walked in, and the place was so full of stuff that you could hardly walk through the rooms.
Right.
We walked in, we walked out, all we said was, wow, 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 and we put an offer in. And within a month, we were moved.
Beautiful.
So it may have taken a year, and it may have seemed to be taking forever, but it wasn't taking forever. It was just waiting for us.
I love it.
So there is so much of that.
Can you take us to the story behind how you began venting creatively?
Well, that's really, I love this story, basically. I befriended Ann Toth, who used to have her own radio show, the Aquarium Talk Show, and used to go there and just sit with her while she was doing the show and things like that. And then one day I finally went and had a reading done by her. Now, what she told me shocked me. Because I felt that I had handled a lot of things. I had done some counseling. I felt that I was doing pretty good. And I was, again, still using my humor, and I was doing all kinds of acting happy. And I thought I was doing very well. So when she told me that I was, going to be an art teacher, I said, no. I'm not going back to school to become an art teacher. I'm not going to put in that time and energy. And it's just, I have no desire whatsoever to do that. And I was more of a black and white person. I was a writer. I liked to write. I used to write about all kinds of tragedies that could possibly be done. And I used to sign them John H. Hayner because I didn't want people to connect me with them. I'd like to know if there is a real John H. Hayner. So there was all that side and so for me to be an art teacher, I just didn't see it. But she did say something that made me pay attention, and that was, well, you have a choice here. You either do this to rebirth, or they're going to carry you out of the school strapped to a stretcher after a nervous breakdown. And I said, okay. So now she told me that, like, I guess it was around June, and I went on a holiday to Southampton, Ontario, and I love that place still. And I went to the Five and Dime store, and I bought a set of markers, and I bought a cheap cheap little tablet, and I went back to my room, and I said, okay, what do you want me to do? And I started to just go with what I felt guided. And when I finished and I left and I came back and they cleaned my room, the ladies in there said, are you an artist? These are beautiful. They're very native. They're just unbelievable. And I had closed my eyes to do most of it. So it was a kind of like, oh my God, she could be right. So, and she later told me, no, I'm not talking about structural art.
Good to have the clarification.
So the next time I went, it was like a door opened. It was like a door opened, and that year I did over 100 heartworks, I call them, not artworks, heartworks. And I went back to see her, and she had a little cottage that you actually got to go in. So I got there first. And I put all these paintings and stuff, everything that I had done on these heartworks up. There's a robin out there, which is a new beginnings thing. I put it around, and she was just blown away by what I had done.
Beautiful.
So she basically was very much instrumental in me saving my life by being so frank.
Amazing.
And I thank her so much. I know she's passed on, and I pray that she's helping me on the other side. And because other people, I had even a counselor best friend that didn't see what she saw. And if she did, she wasn't aware of it, you know. So it was and that's very interesting, because from there I actually thought, well, how can I help other people do this technique? Yes. And so I started doing little workshops in the house. And then I'm very allergic to cigarette smoke. Okay. And one of my friend's mothers really wanted to try it. So I thought, well, how can I do that? So yes. Then I created the book. And at that time, when I was creating the book, I had a summer off with no money. And I said, okay, you give me time and no money. What do you want me to do? And they kept saying, write a book, write a book, write a book. And I'm going, I can't write a book. I can't publish it. I have no money to publish it. Write a book. What about? What you know? And it kept saying, art from the heart of interest, art from the heart of interest. And I kept, okay. So I actually started at 4 o'clock in the morning to write the book. It was my full thank you page. It just came boom, 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 and I couldn't write fast enough, so I had to get up and go to the computer and start typing. And it started in July, and it was published in September.
Congratulations.
So it was, once I opened that door, I actually had to read it a couple of times to remember what I wrote, because it was so quick.
So is it channeled?
It seems to be more channeled, because I don't always know. I just ask for guidance, and what I have developed has been totally through that guidance each time, is listening and seeing, okay, what do I need to do next? And that's very interesting, because one of my favorite stories is when I had a booth with one of the health fairs. This little girl, we were doing the emotion joy, and this little girl was drawing this picture, and all of a sudden I was over talking to someone else, and all of a sudden everybody's coming over to me, Carolyn, you have to come over, oh my God, this little girl, she drew the devil. She gets joy from the devil. I don't think so. So I walked over, and all the way over there I'm thinking, okay, what is this about? Help me here. What is going on? And when I got to her, I looked down and I looked at her and I said, who is it that you love that calls you a little devil? And she said, my grandmother. She said, I was thinking about my grandmother.
How beautiful.
And I'm going, and so to me, and that's one of the most important parts about, we appreciate our heartworks, we do not critique our heartworks. We say what we see in order to help the person get an idea about it. And I ask everybody to throw out what doesn't fit. Okay. Because sometimes what a person sees in your drawing is what they need to know. Okay. So a lot of the time when it's a small group, everybody's getting messages. So that's where that came from.
So what are some of the things that you would traditionally expect to see in someone's heartworks?
Well, the devil, that was really cool.
Yes.
And there's lots of angels, there's lots of animals, and we usually use animal speak. What it comes down to is your gut. What does that animal mean to you? Okay. Okay. So there's animals, there's cartoon characters. When I was doing the script for the CD, the audio workshops, the CDs, I kept getting a little Shakespeare in my drawings. Awesome. And so what you need and what you need to recognize, one of the things when my cat was passing, my cat passed, it was amazing because I did love of him, I did guilt for not doing enough, I did anger, I went through the whole realm of grief with him, and in each one of those drawings there was a picture. He came through in the picture. One of them was where he used to touch everybody he was wonderful during the workshops because he would know when somebody needed to just be touched. I feel he was definitely an angel. He's one of those ones that, one of those intuition things that I left him for 10 days knowing he was going to be there for me.
Right.
And he was.
Beautiful.
So he was very much always a part of me when I needed to do this journey, and he really helped me with unconditional love.
Beautiful.
So, and one of the pictures when you're coloring, sometimes you can't, it looks like you're making a mess, and the paint, the colors don't cover right, and that's why the more perfect this is, the less you get. It's better to just almost get back there where you were child coloring.
Right.
Okay, and I couldn't, and it was where his paw was sneaking out. He was actually putting his paw out. So this type of thing is just so rewarding to see these things. And lots of times there's numbers which are very symbolic for people. You close your eyes to create the actual drawing. So this is not something that you plan to draw. And we ask that no symbols and things like that be added to it in the one process. That's the emotional side.
Okay.
Then we do perceptual drawings that give us clues and insight into our journey.
Okay.
So that part you close your eyes to get your picture and then you draw it. And but there are no pencils or erasers in this.
Beautiful.
So the universe participates. And your angels and spirit guides participate.
Now you wear a few other hats. Since you've retired, what are some other things that you've been doing?
Well, it seems like I'm working harder than I did when I had a full-time job. I don't know how that is. I feel I definitely am being groomed for whatever's coming. And one of my jobs is I'm actual chapter leader for People in Connection. And it's a business networking group. And I love the whole name, I like the concept, and we have like discussions where people help each other, and so far we've been really, we've gone from having just myself at a meeting to 25 members now, so it's been very good, and we actually do a video show as well once a month, and just talk to our members and things like that, so it's just very, it's been very good experience, and I love doing that and seeing the people. We have meetings in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls every month, and that's just one of my hats. And then I teach laughter yoga, and I call it Laugh Yourself Healthy Niagara, and this is something that just seems to fit right into the venting creatively. Yes. And I wrote a poem when I was a kid called Laugh, so it really fits with where I needed to be. And it's just exercising, it helps your heart grow stronger. We're doing laughter exercises. You get to play again like a kid. It's a little bit like improv. It's just, if I'm going to exercise, it has to be fun.
Yes.
And it's helped me have my voice. And one of the things that people noticed is that your spontaneity becomes easier.
Nice. When
you're using this, and you sleep better.
Nice.
So it's a noisy class because joyful hearts are noisy hearts. So different from the art classes. So that's another one that I do. But to me, I don't see that as a job. I see that as my exercise regimen.
Okay.
So I want other people to come because it's fun.
Nice.
And then I actually co-created the Women of Worth online magazine. And this is something that just came out of the blue, not expected, and just snowballed. And what we do is we feature a WOW gal every month, and who tells her story of how she went through struggle, transformation, and then got a change of consciousness that has bettered the world or herself in some way, and followed her passion, that kind of thing. And already we just started in December was when I launched it, 2010, and we already have WOW Gals right up to the end of 2012 that have submitted their stories. And it's just so amazing to read some of these stories, and I just love the fact that we have many, like there's no one rebirth in a lifetime.
Yes. Oh yes, we know.
So there's so many stories, as you probably noticed from mine. Like there's so many times that you get this opportunity to change for the better. And I do believe that, I believe you get 3 chances at a change, and they can get 3 messages somehow, whether it's music, whatever it is you get these 3 messages, and if you listen, you get a reward, and if you don't, you get a and then they give you another 3.
Yes.
And if you listen, you get a bigger reward.
Yes.
And if you don't, you get a bigger.
Yes.
And then there's another set of 3, and this could be a bad set of 3, so you have to make it count.
Yes.
And so I like to get there before the second one, if I
Yes.
can. I like to try to listen, and these ladies have done that. Like, they've gone through their struggles, and they've really grown with that. And some of the other things that you can find there is events like to do with women and to do with all kinds of things, actually.
Nice.
And then you can actually become a Wild Gal sponsor, which is become part of the directory, and to sponsor this so that we can keep it going. And it's just, there's articles, there's a blog that people can work with.
That's exciting. And you offer other workshops and classes, don't you?
Yes, we have so many now. It's really evolved. I have a retreat that we do every fall now, and that's up at Tamarack Island, and it's called De-Stress to Manifest Women's Retreat.
Nice.
And we do laughing, playing, we do coloring, we do meditating, we do some massage, we do, and then we actually refocus and decide. We get clear so that we know what we want to manifest in our life. So it's very, and then we have waterfront area. It's just beautiful. So
that's a treat.
It's a wonderful experience, and we're doing that every fall. And you can go to destresstomanifest.com to find out more details about this year's. And then I've created 2 other workshops called one, Removing Your Walls of Block and Delay, and that has been very effective for a lot of people, and I'm drawing the law of attraction, but we're drawing the law of attraction. So besides all the Art from the Heart ones, we have specific ones that we can do with large groups as well, which are both of those.
Beautiful.
And I have one fun one called The Lighter Side of Venting that is a lot of fun, very interactive. Everybody has to play, everybody has to participate, and we learn all kinds of techniques quick techniques to get rid of your negativity in a second. So that's been that's one of the most popular for large groups right now.
Just a question about the negativity and the stress. Now, are these planted from childhood and we all carry them until we actually do conscious work? Is that how it works?
I love that you asked that question, because there are 2 ways that we do it. One of them is external, and that all comes from the media every day, every moment. Other people, work situations, all that. And then there's the inner stinking thinking negativity.
You have the best lines.
Well, that's actually Stuart Small's. He did that, but I just love his phrase of that, is the stinking thinking. And we get that from, well, our past. A lot of that built-in stuff that we have to deal with and recognize it as not being the truth. And then there's also what's been put into our heads, what has, so yeah, it can be past life stuff, it can be this life stuff, but it's the stinking thinking that can control us and stop us from doing what we need to do, or facing our fears and moving forward. And so we can get rid of both of those. Now, children, unfortunately, they pick it up from ours as well. So that's where, when I created the children's book, what really bugs me sometimes in the parent and child workshops, I want the parent to be there for the workshop, because I really believe that working with the child alone will never work.
Okay.
Because we don't realize half of what we're saying or doing.
Right.
That and a child can hear something on TV or hear their parents talking. In fact, just the other day at McDonald's, I was talking to a lady and her child, and she started to tell the story about, now can I remember, I hope I don't have one of those blips, but her child was sitting there eating an ice cream, pretty nonchalant, but she was talking to adults, so she was talking adult ways. And it was about about a dog getting in a crib and smothering a baby. And I'm thinking, right away, I know that even though that child is sitting there eating the cone, she may have a nightmare that night.
or a fear of dogs, and then she'll be going...
She has her dogs, but...
Where does this
yes.
fear come from? Interesting.
So we don't even have a clue what they're picking up. And on a daily basis, minute by minute.
So do you have suggestions for a parent who wants to be a conscious parent? Like, here are the keys that you think make a good parent. Is that a fair question?
Well, now I have to be honest, I've never been one. So I'm looking at it from more of an objective standpoint, yes. And from being a child who needed a lot.
Yes.
And who's been there. And I think a lot of it is just listening to yourself speak and knowing okay. what's actually coming out of your mouth when you're around your children.
Okay.
And recognizing, I think again, if you can take care of your own stress in mm-hmm. healthy ways, mm-hmm. then you can definitely raise healthy children.
Beautiful.
But they pick up, like, we can't bury our feelings. We can't hide our feelings from our children, mm-hmm. because I think that only makes, we stuff it, they get it. Barbara DeAngelis talked around about that so much, and I thought about the energy and the whole hierarchy, mm-hmm. and how if a father suppresses his feelings, the wife starts getting angry. And that's why when that push-pull thing that goes on, and if the man is pulling away, the woman cries to get him, right? If that push-pull. So if a person that as soon as you're in a relationship with anybody, even you and I at this moment, we have a natural tube of energy yes. running from us. So when the man pushes his down, it goes to the woman and she acts out in some way. If she pushes it down too, then the next child in line. Right. If he pushes it down, then the next one. And that's why there's always the one kid that's acting out, the troublesome child.
I get it.
Okay? And if that child learns to stop, then the animals start acting out. So it's all about the hierarchy, and I've seen this in so many families, and I've seen it all through my teaching of 20 years. Like, that's where I did my study on it.
Yes, that's why I asked about it, because
so
I thought...
I may not have children, but I've been doing a lot of study of watching how things are happening.
Yes.
And that is one of those things that we think we can hide it. It's better that we place it somewhere. Now, that's one of the things about, I'd rather color it onto paper.
Yes.
Than, and have it as a beautiful picture, even though it was negative to start with. It's a beautiful picture. Something that changes and evolves as we change our perception, because you see different things from it. But rather than put it on other people. That's the whole thing. That's my whole thing.
I love
is
it.
that we do it. We do preventative. I want to be preventative.
Yes.
And we're human, so we will not be 100% at it at any point in time.
So what you offer, really, everybody needs this.
Yeah, it's all ages.
Do you have distance education, or how do people from afar contact you?
Okay, I actually just created 2 e-workshops that mm-hmm. people can go, that has a PowerPoint component to it, as well as a paper that you work with, that you can print out. And so I have that in the Removing the Walls of Lack and Delay and the Drawing the Law of Attraction. And I also have audio workshops now that are in MP3 format that can be downloaded, and there's the 3 types of workshops. There's the introduction, beginner, art from the heart adventure, then there's the intermediate and more in depth, then you do about 8 pictures, and then there's what we would normally do in 5 weeks. There's a longer version, so they can be downloaded and used, and it's like going through the process with me being right there. And it's just, the very first part, it really explains it well, what this is all about, and there's some interpretation type insight into that. And so that, I really wanted to share this with the world, but I'm only one person.
Yes, I can imagine. And what's your web address?
It's www.ventingcreatively.com.
Okay, and for the Wow Gals, do you have contact details, or what's the address for the magazine?
Yes, I actually shortened it up so that people would find it easier. I got a second domain name, which is www.thewowgals.com. Okay. So that just makes it easier for people to remember.
Beautiful. And just curious, I ask everyone this, and so what's been your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, I mean, you probably... Well, Louise Hay has been very much a part of, because I really do believe our emotions manifest in so many things. So she is one of my biggest. as far as an adult goes. But as a child, I had a teacher named Mrs. Thorne. And she was the first person who gave me structure. She gave me choices and consequences that she didn't waver on. It wasn't like living at home where you didn't know whether you were going to get a whack or not, because it depended on the mood of the person rather than what you did.
Yes.
But she gave me structure. Even though the others didn't like her in the class, I found that I followed her around like a little puppy, and she was the one that inspired me to want to be a teacher, and that's what I followed through with. This is the choices, these are the consequences, no wavering, no favorites, just this, it's up to you whether you make the choices or consequences, but this is what will happen if you do.
Beautiful. So
she was very good, and then my grade 8 teacher, 7 and 8 teacher, Earl Everson, got me to write. And I always believed that I should be a writer. So I've had a lot of good inspiration at the beginning. There's been a couple people there that really helped me see that there was another side to life.
Amazing tribute to teachers you've just given, because I wonder how much effect the teachers and the education system does have on child development. But just hearing for your whole life at year 3, you were touched to journey down a path from a teacher, and I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And your final words of wisdom today?
Well, my favorite saying is, the past cannot be changed, but the future can be anything you want it to be. So live in the present and make the future count.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carolyn, thank you so much for your time today. It was such a pleasure to meet you, to hear your story. It's truly inspirational to understand where you come from, and then to see you the way you are today, because the light that shines from you is incredible. Your energy is inspirational. The gifts that you're giving to the world through your teachings, through your books, is truly a blessing. So thank you for sharing everything with us. Thank you for spending time with me. It's truly appreciated. Much love and many blessings.